In this video, I want to go over my 4-step process to letting go. So I discovered the idea of letting go back in 2020 during lockdown. And during this time, I was a trainer, I was a massage therapist. I specialized in helping people release their stress, their pain, and their anxiety. But the only problem was I realized working with over 200 clients was that they always had to come back to me. And although that was good for me financially, I realized that this was a problem. Like, why was it that I was able to help people lower their stress in the moment, but then they go off into real life and they get triggered? So I was really trying to study that because I realized at the same time I was doing that with myself. I had all of these practices. I had meditations, I had affirmations, I had visualizations, I exercised, I had breathwork practices, I did ice baths, I took cold showers. I did anything to help me gain control of my emotions. And particularly at that time was an anxiety, because I used to think that the reason why I had anxiety was because I was always worried about my finances, and I was really socially awkward. But at the same time, I was a salesman. I was a trainer. I worked for 2 big box gyms. And I knew how to develop this character to be very persuasive, be an influencer, be somebody that can move somebody emotionally, ask the right questions, trigger people into buying a product that I believe that would help them. And that was my personal training packages or my massage sessions. And I was really good at that. I really knew how to trigger these emotions in people. And because I had these techniques, these social weapons, I was able to mask my anxiety when dealing with people. But when the pandemic hit, lockdown hit, and I was by myself, and at the time I was receiving $4,600 a month from unemployment, because this is when they passed the $600 a month a week. And I was also receiving like an extra $550 a week. So I was receiving $1,100 a week, receiving $4,600 a month about. My finances was good. And I was locked in the house, so I didn't have to deal with people. I thought I would have my anxiety under control. But it just got worse. It was the first time where I was locked in the house alone with my thoughts, with my feelings. And the first couple of days, I was able to ignore it because I was able to watch YouTube videos. I was able to read books. I was able to distract myself. I was able to work out. Mind you, at the time, I wasn't worried about the disease at all. But this anxiety was just building up inside of me, and I couldn't figure out what was causing it. And then I realized that I was just an anxious person. It wasn't anything that was causing me anxiety. Anxiety was my foreground, meaning I was always anxious, but while I was working full time, because at the time, back before 2020, I was working anywhere from 70 to 80 hours a week, I was able to distract myself from my anxiety. And I was able to charade myself, create this character to not feel my anxiety, to not experience my anxiety. I was able to shove it down. But I was faced with a dilemma back in 2020. I'm stuck in the house by myself. Mind you, I have a girlfriend. She lives with me, but whenever she would go to work, because at the time she was an essential worker, when I was by myself, I would just have these crazy panic attacks. And then I got lucky. I started searching, what could I do about it? I found the works of David Hawkins, which he wrote the book, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender, which I really suggest you buy that book, Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David Hawkins, and The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Those are 2 books I really recommend you get. And I read these books and I realized the key to releasing my anxiety is this idea of letting go. Now, although the books were good, They were very theory based. It was a lot of spiritual mumbo jumbo, and I'm a very very spiritual person. I love things like meditation, prayer, affirmations, all these holistic practices. I'm a massage therapist, so these are things that I like to do. I love doing yoga, stuff like that. But it was all theory for me. I just couldn't grasp the concept. There was no practical way of doing it. And then I started to experiment. I knew I had to figure this out. And that's when I developed this 4-step process of letting go. It's very, very practical. But I discovered it, I think it was around November 2020 when the pandemic was pretty much over and I was starting to get back into work. And as I discovered this process and I started working on it, I started to release stress, started to release pain, I started to release anxiety. I started to feel more calm, peaceful, collected. I knew that I had to share this because after that, around the year 2021, I started to operate from more of this place of flow, more from a place of ease. I learned to manage my problems a whole lot better. I was way more relaxed. I started to sleep better. I had more energy. I didn't need as much caffeine. I was happier. I smiled more. So then I decided to share this method with my clients. And when I started to share this method with my clients, it was very, very tough for them to grasp at first. But because they trusted me, they worked with it. And it was really, really cool to see others get the same results where they're like, wow, like I never would have thought to do this method of letting go. Now, the problem with this method is, and this is something that the spiritual teachers will never talk to you about, is that in order to release stress, to release pain, to release stored emotions, stored trauma, you're gonna have to experience pain. I'll say that again. In order to release all of this stuff, you're gonna have to experience pain. Pain is the pathway to freedom. I'll say that again. Pain is the pathway to freedom. You're gonna have to go through the pain. You're gonna have to go into the dark corners of your mind and your being and face them. Get into those dark corners. And it's scary. You're going into the unknown. Because what you're gonna be doing is re-experiencing some of these emotions, old memories, and as the yogis would call it, some scars. You allow them to come up. You allow yourself to experience it, and you end up releasing it. But it doesn't all come at once. It's little chunks. And believe it or not, we're experiencing these things all the time, but a lot of us are so busy because it is 2024. There's inflation. We all got to work. Grocery bills are high. We're constantly keeping ourselves busy. We're like a hamster on a wheel running from place to place that we don't even pay attention to ourselves, except for when we try to go to sleep. And a lot of us, when we go to sleep at night, what do? We toss and we turn. And this idea of letting go, I love it, but I hate the way the internet gurus teach it. The internet spiritual gurus, because they all like namaste. They all look like they're very, very peaceful. They all play this character of always being enlightened, always having like a shine in their eyes. And to me, it's all a hoax. Not all of it, but a lot of them are just hoaxes to sell you their products and services. They're great marketers. They understand that they have to be an attractive character. This is stuff you're taught in marketing books where you have to be this attractive, perfect character. You have to come from a frame of authority because when you look like somebody who has your stuff together, people are more likely to listen to you. And there's no authenticity there. It's just all a character. It's all a charade. A lot of these internet spiritual gurus, I won't name any of them, it's just an act. I bet you a lot of them, if they get like a parking ticket, they freak out. But, they're good at making money. They're good at what they sell. So what is this 4-step process? You tell me the backstory, right? Well, before I tell you the 4-step process, I really want to urge you to give this a try. Please. Because it's getting rough out there. It's 2024, presidential elections coming up. Again, there's threats of nuclear war, inflation, and we need to learn how to manage our stress, our pain, our anxiety, our stored triggers. We all need to learn how to be more peaceful, more calm, more accepting of others. Because right now, especially here in America, we're very, very divided, especially politically. You know, today is like the first time I've ever seen, I'm 34 years old, where if somebody has a different political opinion from you, you have to attack them. You can't be friends with them. Like, how dare you be friends with somebody on that side? But I don't think we need that right now. What I think we need now is some more understanding, some more acceptance. And that's something that this method will actually teach you if you decide to practice it. So, about 11 minutes in, what is this method? Well, what is letting go? What are we trying to let go of? The first thing you got to realize what you're trying to let go of is the emotion behind the memory or the thing you're experiencing right now. I'll say that again. You're just trying to let go of the emotion. Because right now, a lot of us have stored emotions inside of us that come up. And we see it all the time. It comes up in weird places. For some of us, it might be you're driving and somebody cuts you off and you get angry. And you don't think you're an angry person, but for some reason, when somebody cuts you off, it comes out of you. Or you might just get anxious for some reason. You might feel sadness for no reason at all. You might just be walking around and all of a sudden you just feel moody. You feel irritable. And whenever you feel these emotions, that's a chance for you to let them go, because what they are is stored, as the yogis would call them, stored samskaras, stored impressions, things that we've suppressed, that we've pushed down, that's always popping up. But we don't allow ourselves to experience it because we've always been told that we always have to have a positive attitude. Think positively. Don't allow negativity to bring you down, which is true. Don't allow negativity to bring you down, but you should experience negative emotions as they come up. So, the first step is you got to become aware of what it is you're trying to let go of, aware of which emotion that's coming up consistently in your life. So, for me, it was anxiety. Now, once you become aware that, all right, it's anxiety that I'm trying to let go of, the question you have to ask yourself is, how do you know? So for me, how do I know that I'm anxious? And a lot of the times what I noticed was it was in my body. It was in my neck. I would tense my jaw. I would tense my neck. And I would start to feel weird feelings in my neck. So step one is becoming aware. For some people, it's anger. You might clench your jaw. For some people, it's sadness and grief. What you'll notice is that all of these emotions are usually stored in the body. And you have to become aware again of the body. You have to get out of your head. It's not so much the thoughts that are bothering you. It's what the thoughts are creating in the body. That's what we're usually trying to escape. This is why people like getting like drunk or high, is because what happens is you shut down the thinking mind and you experience the body more. But what you don't realize is you also experience the negative emotions in the body. So emotions, again, like anger, sadness, grief, you have to realize when you're experiencing it and become aware of it. So you might say something like, okay, I'm feeling sad now. How do you know? How can you become aware of it? Well, I feel it in my heart. So that's the first step, is become aware of it, right? So you become aware of it in the body. Next step, step number 2, is acceptance. Okay, I feel sad. How do I know? I feel it in my heart. I'm aware that I'm sad. Step 2 is accept it, which means you let it be there. You don't try to run away from it. You don't try to put on a YouTube video to get you out of your feelings. You don't have to put on happy music so you don't feel it no more. What you do is you just allow it to be there. You let it be. You sit with it. And as you sit with it, this is the hard part, because what I said earlier is you're going to go through some pain. This shit sucks. It hurts. But understand that pain is the pathway to freedom. So you have to experience it. You have to sit there with it. You don't have to express it. You don't have to talk to somebody about it. You don't have to suppress it. You just got to experience it. Sit there with it. Let it be. So as you start to experience it, just say to yourself, accept it. Let it be. And it's happening all the time. We're getting triggered all the time. You know, that example is you could just be waiting online somewhere and you start feeling a little anxious because you're running late to work. Well, how do you know? Oh, I feel my heart racing. Okay, let it be there. Sit there with it. Accept it. And what happens is when you tend to allow yourself to experience it, what tends to happen, unfortunately, is it gets a little worse. Because when you allow it to be there and you don't distract yourself from it, or you don't try to fight with it and express it or change your mood, more of it's going to come up. But what you got to realize is you're allowing more of that darkness to come up, and you sit there with it and you allow it to be there. From there, what's step number 3? Is it's usually going to start to flow to something else. So if you sit there long enough, it'll start to move around. If you pay attention to it, come aware of the body, pay attention to it, it'll start to flow to other areas of the body. And sometimes it'll flow into a different emotion. So it might be you're anxious and then you're paying attention to it. This happened to my client one time. He was anxious, and then all of a sudden it moved up to his throat and he started to get angry, and he told me he felt like screaming. And I said, sit there with it. He almost tried to get out of it. But I say, no, just sit there with it. Allow that to be there. So then what you do is you go back to step number 2, which is you accept it. You just accept it and let it be there. And then again, you allow that to flow. So it's a continuous loop. So first step, become aware of it. How do you know that you're feeling what you're feeling? It's in the body. Even right now, as you're listening to me, what are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Allow it to be there. How do you know? It's in the body? It might be in your face. Just be aware of it. Second step, allow it to be there. Right now, are you bored? Are you trying to figure out where I'm going? Do you feel like clicking on another video? Do you have the urge to move on? Sit there with it. Maybe you feel your hands starting to get a little tingling, like, oh, I gotta click another video because this guy's talking too much. Sit there with it. Because know that if I'm irritating you right now, know that you get irritated in other areas of your life. And it's not helping you at all. So sit there with it, allow it to be there, then let that flow into something else. And then the 4th step is release. As you sit there with it and it starts to flow, what you could start to do over time is you could start to pull back from it and release it. Now, the body and the mind naturally knows how to heal itself. So when you say, how do I let go? How do I actually get to the 4th step where I release from it? Just know that's going to happen on its own. But you could imagine yourself wherever the energy is in the body, let's say it's in the heart, and you're feeling it. If you want to pull back from it, you could actually imagine yourself stepping away from it and detaching from it. And you could actually like watch the energy in front of you, in your mind, of course. This is an imagination game. But most of the time, you don't even have to do that, because the clients that I worked with, a lot of times they say it just moves on its own, and it releases on its own the more you stay with it. Now, this is a process. So I'll say the process again. Step number 1, become aware. How do you know you're feeling what you're feeling? It's usually in the body. Locate where in the body that you're feeling it. Step 2, accept it. Let it be there. Sit there with it. Understand that this is going to suck. It's going to hurt. You might start experiencing extreme amount of sadness or anger. Allow it to come up. And as you allow it to come up, just sit there with it. And it hurts. It's very, very painful. You might experience shame, guilt, grief, apathy, pride. Even pride is something bad, because pride, you feel like it could be attacked. Desire. Not saying desire is a bad thing, but a lot of times with desire, it's something we crave. We want it so bad that if we don't have it, it causes us frustration. These are all emotions that you just have to sit there with it and allow yourself to experience it. Again, you don't have to express it. Because when you express it, what you're actually doing is you're trying to feel better. This isn't about feeling better right away. This is about getting better at feeling. feeling what you're actually going through, because a lot of us are really, really detached from our bodies. So again, step 2, accept it, allow it to be there. Step number 3, allow it to flow. And then the more you do this, the more you practice this, it'll start to release on its own. But you couldn't imagine yourself stepping away from it. Now, this will happen in chunks. And it takes some time to get used to. But you could practice this all the time, especially when you're just bored. Boredom for a lot of people is a bad emotion. You're sitting there and you feel the need to pick up your phone and text. You feel that impulse. And I got to grab my phone. How about you just sit there with it and feel that impulse try to take over and just sit there with it. Don't fucking satisfy it. Just sit there with it. Allow that irritation to come up of being bored. Practice this when you're in line. Practice this in, you're driving, somebody cuts you off. You feel the anger. How do you know? Oh, I'm clenching my jaw. That's how you become aware of it. Sit there with it. You don't have to scream at the guy. The guy, he can't hear you. Yeah, it probably feels good in the moment, but know that you're just training yourself to do that more and more, and then it's going to come out in other areas as well. It's not going to just come out in road rage. Before you know it, you're taking it out on your partner, your spouse, your coworkers. You're starting to be irritable with everybody else around you. Nobody enjoys being around you. So again, you accept that it's there. I'm angry. Okay, how do you know it's in my jaw? Sit there with it. Allow it to be there. Then allow it to flow. It's going to start to move. The more you pay attention to it, and you could do this with your eyes open. You just feel it. You experience it. And as you experience it, it'll start to flow. And then the more you keep doing this over time, it will be released on its own. And I promise you, if you do this for the next 30 days, first of all, you ain't got nothing to lose. I mean, yeah, I could turn this into a meditative process, but we're getting triggered and disturbed all the time. So real life is the best time to practice this. Like I made a video, I think it was yesterday, on my meditation process, where the problem I have with meditation is like people could only meditate in a calm, comfortable situation where there's no distractions, but real life is full of distractions. Real life is messy. So this 4-step process really, really trains you in real life. And I really urge you to practice this on your day-to-day life. Practice this all the time. Because if you don't, and you allow your emotions to run you and take over, or you suppress them, a lot of bad things could happen. We all know what could happen with chronic stress or suppressed emotion. Weird things come up, unexplained things. You start doing things that you're like, I don't know what came over me. You hear this all the time when people get angry and they do crazy stuff. It's like, I don't know what came over me. Well, it's something because you suppressed it for so long. You was pushing it down. All of a sudden it exploded and it took over. So this is about gaining back control of our emotions, experiencing our emotions, learn to really let go, learn to allow yourself to feel, to experience. You don't got to express it. You just got to experience it. Allow God's light to run through you. Because if you clear all this stuff up, you'll naturally be aligned with God. And I've been working on this process for about 3 years, and I feel a whole lot better. I'm still not perfect by far. I'm nowhere near enlightenment. I still get anxious, but I still get mad. I actually just got mad at my girlfriend yesterday where I did something that was a little stupid, where I allowed this anger to take over and like I kind of exploded a little bit. So I'm not perfect with it, but I was able to reflect on it and re-experience it and sit there with my anger. That way I operate better. It's all about getting better day by day in every way, becoming a better human being. So I really suggest you try this process of letting go out. It's very practical. It's very logical. It's not spiritual mumbo jumbo. It's not easy. It is painful because re-experiencing your emotions like this is painful. Because when I work with this with clients, a lot of times they have breakdowns, they cry, they feel the need to scream, they want to run away from it. I have to coach them into staying with it, sit with it, sit with it, sit with it. And they all tell me that when they do this, they feel a whole lot better in the long run. So this is not a quick fix, okay? It's going to take time. You got to practice it. But I promise you, if you do this, if you practice this consistently, your life will get a whole lot better. You'll make better choices. You'll have better relationships. You'll see more opportunities. You'll make more money. All by following this little 4-step process. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I see it took me about 25 minutes to get to the point, but I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like. Also, if you have any questions, comment in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about this process. Let me know if you think it's stupid, it's not going to work. Let me know if you want a meditative process where I could actually do this in a meditation. That way you could actually experience what I do with clients now. And, please share this with a friend who needs to hear this message, who needs to learn how to let go of stuff. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe now. Thanks. Peace.